What's the difference between mentorship and coaching?
Coaching is more hands-on. Physically, if I look at like my bank accounts and look at how much money I'm making from like creating videos, it's way more than it is for design. When I look at the money I keep, it's way more in design than it is in the video, because you invest all the money back into equipment.
Do you think we can really make an impact?
Africa is the place to be for the next 10 years. To be very honest, like Africa is the place to be. If you want to make an impact, if you want to make money, it's here.
Hi guys, we are back again with yet another episode for Brand Up, and today with me here is someone that I wouldn't take the long moments to introduce him. I think he does it better. So we'll quickly just get into the conversation with the Joshua Cleopas. I mean, take notice of it's very definite. I mean, he's him. Joshua, how far?
I'm great.
How have you been? I mean, what have you been up to lately?
Come again?
What have you been up to lately?
So I'm not feeling so well, but I had to really come here because I really believe in what you guys are doing. It's always exciting to talk to other crazy people, especially here in Ghana. So
definitely so. So to the conversation, I think you're one of the few creatives here with expansive skill set. So it's very difficult to put you in a particular box. So photography, videography, documentary, design, brand. I mean, how did you get here?
It's a simple story. I'm professionally trained, or less academically trained, as a graphic designer.
Okay.
Right. So the basis of that is really communication, if you think about it much deeper. And every other thing you mentioned are really just tools for communication. Design as a tool for communication, video, photography, documentaries. So that was that. So I think after school, I sort of wanted to work for myself, right?
Right from the start.
Yeah, right from the start. Because during my school years, every single vacation I took an internship. So by my fourth year, I had done like 4 or 5 internships.
Oh.
And I knew that working for myself would be the best path. So then I started thinking about all the other skill sets I might need to sort of make sure that if I'm running a company, I would have all the things. Because you can imagine starting alone, you wouldn't have the resources to hire a designer, an illustrator, photographer. So you kind of DIY everything. So that's pretty much how it started.
Or was there a particular reason why you decided to work for yourself right from the start?
Oh, Charlie, it's a very simple answer. Money. It's a very simple thing. Because I mean, I'd come to get a good grasp in terms of like finances, right? Of all the individual assets. And I knew that in the combination, we add everything together, you most likely start to make more money. And I was a little bit of a perfectionist. So I would work with other people and I wish I could have done something this way. So like, oh, I'll just do it myself. So I ended up picking up the skill sets across all the different areas. And I think in design school, I think for third year, you have the chance to try out other things. So there's a little bit of photography, there's a little bit of the video strategy and all of that. So it kind of just sort of came together. So when I was doing my master's degree, I was like, I don't want to do design anymore, because I noticed that I was already using, the core skill I was using was communication. So like I have to take a second degree in communication. So I did my master's degree in international marketing and communication. And that's what I really do now.
Wow, I mean, solid stuff. At what point, I mean, when you are in school, you take internships, you build experience, and when you came to the conviction that you want to do something for yourself, I mean, at what point did you feel validated that you're on the right path?
That's a tough question. I think the validation, I still sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough. I still sometimes feel
that's out there, every top creative. Is it a mark of modesty or what?
I don't think it's a mark of modesty.
Because you're among the few people that many creatives look up to. I know you know.
I have no idea.
You get it? So to hear you talk about the fact that you don't feel that you are up there.
I guess they don't know the plan I have for myself. They also don't know the standards I hold myself to. So I think it's more of a very personal thing. But if I'm supposed to talk about the one time I figured out that maybe working for myself would be better, it will be back when I was working at Stanbic Bank. I had one boss, pretty decent man. He's called Patrick Consa.
Shout out to Patrick. I'm sure he sees.
So at the time, I used to do a lot of I was in the internet banking team. So we'll do some UI, we'll do some graphic design, we'll do some video and stuff. But I was doing all of that. I was like, Josh, you're really talented though. If you quit this bank and actually get on board as a vendor for the bank, you actually can price for every single thing and not get paid like once for all the things you're doing. You get it?
Oh, okay.
So he was like,
So from working in the bank now to the bank becoming your client.
exactly, pretty much. So he was one of the main reasons why I quit. I think I was in final year by then. Yeah, I think I was in the final year. So I was like, maybe that makes sense. So once I'm about to complete school, I had already made a plan that I'm not going to do national service for anybody. I'm going to start my own thing and then right from there. So I think right after school, I registered the company and then I just started working.
I mean, one of the few outliers I would say, because to be that convicted to quit whilst you had the opportunity to continue to start something of your own, it's really good. I mean, at the end, it paid off well, I would say. But I mean, like you're saying, it's a personal thing to you, and you still don't think you have gotten up there yet. But generally, I mean, how do you see the design landscape in our part of the world?
I mean, I think design in Ghana is extremely impactful. It's very, very impactful. It's sad that a lot of people might not see it firsthand, but behind most of the impact we have in Ghana, even as a culture, how the culture is designed, or from the very basis of what Ghanaian culture looks like, the colors, the patterns, we've been a very heavily design-oriented culture. So it's no surprise that if you're a designer in Ghana, you end up making a lot of money, although people might not think of it like that. Because the culture is really designed. Look at the decor symbols, look at the various cloth making patterns across board, beginning from the Ashanti cloth making to the Ever cloth making. Like, there's a lot of design in there. And even if you look at our storytelling, knowing very well that Ghana practices a lot of oral tradition. Oral storytelling has been part of our culture since day one, to teach kids about storytelling and moral lessons and all of that. So I think design in a broader term has always been part of our upbringing and culture.
That's solid. Talking about the oral tradition being part of it, I mean, I don't have a design background. I actually moved from social science, so did a bit of history. And talking about oral tradition, one of the challenges in oral tradition is that because it gets passed down by word of mouth, sometimes there are exaggerations in it. Mm-hmm. There are some points where you even lose the core of it, because your granddad or your great granddad passed it down to your granddad, mm-hmm. down to your dad, to you, to your children. So there's an element of the message of the conversation that would usually get watered down, right? And as creatives, I mean, I think we are in a special and unique position to tell these stories that would keep our identities. I don't know, how important is this to you, where we are telling stories that remind ourselves about humanity, that keeps our identity? How relevant are these in our times?
I think it's even more, I think it's extremely relevant now to use storytelling as a tool, simply because the world is now online. Like right now, I look around, it reminds me of this movie called Ready Player One. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No, I haven't.
So it's a movie where like most of the activity in the world is sort of almost dead. Wars has destroyed most of civilization. But now where the fun is at, it's in a virtual world. So the movie follows a character who sort of wears these VR goggles and is transported into this imaginative world where they're actually playing games. But that's where the real life is, right? I think that's where we've gotten to. Now, the reason why I'm making that reference is because the world is now happening online. It's getting to a point where the online is now like reality, and offline, which is what we're doing now, is trying to catch up to what is happening online. And the reason why storytelling has become more crucial is because there's a lot of people out there. In fact, there's a lot. And similarly, means that there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of marketing and everyone is talking. When storytelling proves to become a tool that helps you not only stand out, but gain the attention of the people you're trying to talk to for a much longer period of time. There's this theory that human beings have less memory than a goldfish, like 9 seconds or 5 seconds, then they forget. So if you really want to be able to speak to your target audience, to your customers, to your clients, to whoever you're speaking to, storytelling is like one of the ways that you can not only be different, but also get the attention of people who they're trying to reach. Otherwise, if you just go and talk about anything without having a plan or making it sound like a story, you just lose people.
I totally agree with you, because we are telling so many stories. I think the stories we have told now would be cumulatively more than ever in our past. Right?
Yeah.
And because of this, you made mention that there is noise. Because I hop online, X, so many things, TikTok, Instagram, and so any platform. How can you stand out? Because there is noise, right? And there are about 1,000 people like you doing similar things. So how do you stand out as a creative, as a brand, as a business? Through your stories.
I would always say this, that if you want to stand out, you need to know what you want to stand out for, right? So you definitely need to have a goal. Let's say you want to stand out as the #1 podcasting platform that talks about creativity and invites creators who make an impact. Now you know exactly what you want to stand out for. That's like the goal. And then you need to know who you want to speak to implement that goal. So maybe for you, you guys are looking to speak to designers, you guys are looking to speak to photographers, videographers, whatever. Now, once you have these two, what you're trying to do and who is the recipient of it, it helps you come up with a plan. And the plan could be anywhere from just randomly making your whole show about the host, or making it align with the values that you have. And I think with that system, you're always able to sort of tell the story that makes sense. And a lot of people think stories are like an answer. It has to, but like, that's not what we mean all the time when we say story. It could just be you putting certain clips like behind the scenes of you on your journey. And that's a story that you're telling. You just have to find a way to really understand what you're trying to do and then who you're doing it for. And if you have these two things figured out, it's much easier to just do anything and ask yourself, is this going to bring value to the person who's going to watch this? The value could be entertainment. The value could be new information. The value could be a better understanding and reception of what you do as a creative or as a company. And the value will be the sort of like the dessert of the whole meal. Yeah.
Makes sense. The value being the dessert of the whole meal. How do you stay inspired? Because in as much as creatives, you may be doing different things, working on different projects, it gets to a point where you feel you're doing the same things over and over and over. Yeah. And sometimes it becomes a bit monotonous, because let's say if you're building identity, if you're building, you're always looking for nature or for whatever, for inspiration. It gets to a point where you feel you are repeating your processes. Does it occur to you, and how do you stay inspired if you get to that moment?
Well, I rarely ever feel down about my work. I think I'm thankful that at Roll we do like the design bits of things, the production bit of things, and the strategy bit of things. And one thing that we have that's super exciting for me is the fact that we get to work for multiple industries. Today we're working for a gold miner, and we're going underground to blast dynamite to see all of that. And that's really incredible. So that the next time you're working for a fish farmer, and you have to understand the whole process of fisheries and all the food and the sort of the challenges they have. And then the next day we are working on the border of Ivory Coast, trying to make stories about how poachers from the Ivory Coast are coming into Molly Park to come and steal the ivory from the little elephants we have. So as you can see, it's actually very exciting, because the clients are sort of dotted across so many industries that it's very interesting. So I rarely ever get to the point where I feel like I'm being repetitive, right? The repetitive part will sort of come from the graphic design bit of the business, because you're usually stuck behind the computer and you're not doing much of going out. So if you have like 5 brand identities to develop, that's where you might feel a little bit repeated. But I think for us, we sort of integrated videography and stuff into most of our brand identity projects. So we still get that sense of variety, because today you're designing for maybe a dentist, tomorrow you're designing for a venture capital firm. So I think that the differentiation and the variety of the client sort of make it nice. But aside all this, there are times where I honestly do feel like, what the hell am I doing? There are times where I feel like, where is this going? And I think how I've been able to overcome that is just to understand that it's going to take a while for me to get to where I got to go. And I also have friends I speak to when I feel that way. And I have people that look up to, especially people I envy, right? People who are places where...
Do you mind putting them out? Which people do you envy?
Oh, most of them are not in Ghana, actually.
So you don't mind? You can still shoot.
I can still shoot. Yeah. Okay, so there's one guy, right, who used to live in Ghana. I'm not going to mention his name, but he relocated to New York, and he started his own UI UX design firm. And this is somebody that I sort of thought, You see, he came to Rome, he worked for a bit, he had a scholarship to go study in the US. And within about a matter of 4 years, he's been able to sort of build a lot. So it's sort of like an inspiration for me, because when I look at what a simple thing like changing your geographical location can do for somebody, I ask myself, can I achieve what other people are achieving regardless of where I am in the world? So it's like I'm putting these ankles on my ankles that is holding me down, but at the same time, trying to break free is very liberating. So I find a lot of inspiration from difficult situations and from having these challenges that I know that it's not my fault. Like, it's not my fault that it's difficult doing business in Ghana. It's not my fault that it's almost impossible today to open a dollar bank account. And all those difficult situations sort of make me feel like, oh, well, maybe let's see if I can actually do this here.
But did you ever wish you could change your location?
Oh yeah, there's been times when I've thought about it like a lot more often. Like, in fact, I think about it almost every day. Especially, so there's this funny thing. We did some work for the World Bank, and we had a chance to speak to the country economist for Ghana. And I mean, this is really coded information, but he made a certain statement about how it's going to take a while for Ghana to get back to where we were in 2019. And I can't say for a fact that 2019 was a great time for Ghana. Compared to now,
that's the year of the 10, right?
Exactly. Compared to now, that time was heaven, right?
Well,
but he made a statement around the idea that Ghana's in for a lot of stress, especially on the economic perspective. So based on his calculations, I started thinking, do I have that amount of years to waste in Ghana to wait for things to get better?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I think about like relocating. Aside that, Africa is the place to be for the next 10 years. To be very honest, like, Africa is the place to be. If you want to make an impact, if you want to make money, it's here. And like, I can't overstate it. If you leave now, you're actually going to come back later and realize that you missed that boom. I would liken the next 10 years in Africa to the period after 9/11, like from 2001 to 2008, where you had companies like Airbnb coming up, like Facebook coming up, and all these other brands because of the economic boom that happened. And if you look at the way financial markets work after the Great Depression, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think Africa is at that point now. So if you have the guts to actually stick through the difficulty and you have a solid plan, you'd actually not just come up on top, but you come up gliding and like sliding across the industry.
I mean, it's really a hard nut to crack, talking about Africa being in the next 10 years the place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it feels that you're wasting your time here, like you mentioned. It feels that you are the good seed, but a bad soil. But you're not getting the good value for what you're putting out there. And you talking about the fact that Africa is really the place to be. I'm trying to wrap my head around some of these opportunities, because I believe if entrepreneurship is basically about solving problems, then where problems are the most should lie the best opportunities.
Exactly, yes.
Because there is so little that you can contribute to, let's say, an advanced economy that they haven't done already.
Yes.
But in our part of the world, I mean, we have issues, bread and butter issues, other complex issues and all that. Do you think we can really make an impact?
Well, I think the impact is better made here on the continent, and the impact will be easier here. Because like you said, where there are a lot of problems, that's where you can actually do a lot. So I think you can actually make an impact. Except for a lot of people, they are not looking at it from an impact perspective. They are looking at it from a survival perspective. So it's hard to think of impact when you can survive yourself, when you're trying to sort of satisfy your own basic necessities like food, accommodation, shelter. It's hard for you to think of impact is really on the side of self-actualization, where you feel like you've done a lot. Now you have to make an impact in other people's lives. So for other people here, they're trying to get over the basic, the foundational hierarchies of life before they think of impact. And I think that is where the gold mine is, because now the world is becoming so connected that a lot of people would want to work outside of, like, a lot of clients are looking for businesses in other countries. And if you're in Ghana, you're working, you're earning in dollars, it makes so much sense. And it's actually getting to the point where almost the whole world, I mean, I think this is thanks to the pandemic, where COVID forced the world to consider the idea of remote work as mandatory or very, like, interestingly high necessity. So if you position yourself well enough, You could be living here on the continent and working with clients abroad. And that, I think, is a sweet partnership.
All right, so Joshua, talking about the opportunities, I'm still interested about the Africa conversation because it's a very youthful population and the youngest continent, and this presents so much opportunities. But I personally don't believe that being youthful alone is enough to come out with these opportunities today. Young people need to be guided. The leadership should be competent. We should be very intentional about the kind of trajectory we want to go. I mean, the AU has the Building Africa We Want, the 2063 agenda, and various governments and all that. Do you have any personal, I wouldn't even say personal problem, but do you have any specific area that you're much more connected to that you wish things were done different?
I think it would be in the areas of skill development. Yes, because currently that seems to be the number one agenda that is driving almost all stakeholder donations and investment on the continent. Like you mentioned, we are the youngest population, but what we lack is skill. So I wish the country as a whole would take that more importantly. And I think more importantly, individuals will take it very seriously. And I say this because entrepreneurship would be the trampoline for most people in Ghana, especially in fact in Africa, to leave poverty, right? You're not going to get better, or you're not going to escape poverty through 9 to 5. And I'm saying this with all
very controversial,
sincerity, that for a lot of people in Ghana who feel like they're not in a better financial circumstance, I bet you that if you take 10 people like that, 9 of them are working 9 to 5. And one of them wouldn't, because only a few people actually earn a lot of money through 9 to 5. They can take the market away as an example. There's this client we work for, right? She doesn't even speak English, and she sells oil. Now, cooking oil. They are not branded. She orders them from Dubai. They come in these large containers, huge containers, and she actually sells them in those yellow jelly can things. Yeah. And they're not branded. Now, her entire market is in Okaishi market. Now, you see those ladies who sell the oil in the vaulting bottles. Yeah, that's where they get it from. So initially, I thought, they'll buy the big Phyto cans and sort of fill them in the small cans and sell it. But that's not the case. They actually go and buy the raw oil from the woman who imports it from Dubai, and she's selling it. And this one was making over 10 million Ghana cedis. And the product is not even branded. Now, she's not unique. In the marketplace, they're all entrepreneurs. They're traders. They're making so much money. They just don't know it, because they think that people with the blue collar and the white collar jobs are the ones making the money because they are dressed nicely, they have cars and all of that. So they think they have money. But they'll be shocked that somebody's 5 months salary, one market man at Okaishi, is making that money in a day. You see, so I think entrepreneurship is the way to go. Not only will it make poverty go away by a huge margin, it would also create more jobs. Because once these people have the skill to start a business, they also employ more people. I think one of Ghana's biggest issue is the fact that there's a lot of reliance in the government to create work and to make people's life easier, which I think for a socialist country makes sense. But it puts more stress on them. And we're not lucky to have a government who actually doesn't really care about the citizens like this. So it makes it even worse. So I think one area I wish there could be a better development would be skill development. And not just the development of the skill, but also a mindset sort of re-engineering to let people see entrepreneurship as very desirable. Because most people think that you go to do your own business while your life is not working. You see, that, let me start my own small business because it's not working. Because 9 to 5 didn't work for me, so I'm starting my own business. But you should think of the idea of entrepreneurship as the liberator of poverty. And I think if you think of things like that, it's going to make life really easy for a lot of people in the country.
Seeing entrepreneurship as that liberator of
poverty.
I mean, I totally agree with you, but at some point, I feel that those people that we have who are at the top, let's say at the pinnacle of their careers and all that, usually there's a sort of condescending outlook that they give to young people. So you'd hear things that young people are lazy, young people, I mean, some even say young people sleep too much, young people do this, young people do that. I mean, do you think young people, do you think you're doing much?
I actually agree with that sentiment.
You do?
I actually agree. But I don't, both of them can be right. Like young people, I think currently are quite lazy because I've seen it myself, right? A lot of them want to make money too quickly, too fast. And that's why you see there's been a surge in the amount of illegal ways of making money. But I guess it's because most of them, especially if you're born somewhere from 1995 upwards, you grew up in a life where you experienced convenience. Convenience through technology, convenience through the way Ghana had even become. You didn't see a lot of like hard labor. You sort of experienced life in very convenient ways. Now, usually you realize that the people who say you're lazy, they are behind that timeline where things were pretty manual. Like even if you had to speak to a friend abroad, you have to get a scratch card that has 5 minutes. Yeah. So the kind of world they grew in is very difficult, where they respect physical labor. The kind of world that we grew in is very digital, very soft, where certain things we think doesn't make sense. Like maybe buying a dishwasher makes so much sense to us, but like, you are using dishwasher, use your hand to clean it. You see, how long will it take you? But to us is a very different thing. So I think the convenience, the desire of convenience is sort of misconstrued as laziness. Okay. But the reason why I actually agree is because if a young person today tries to start something new, I bet you that within the first year, if it doesn't kick off, they will stop. Right? And for them to get to where they want to go, it's hard work. And I'm not necessarily talking about hard work in terms of labor, but it's hard work to actually move from point A to point B. And it's even harder now because you have to do 5 times the work your dad did. You see, but most of them will give up. And it's like, fire. And then they go somewhere else. So that's where I think the laziness comes in, because they're not willing to put in the work to get to where they want to be. But they'll rather point fingers, make excuses, blame the government, do it themselves, blame their parents, blame their girlfriends or boyfriends who's not rich enough. So I think that is what I do when I say they are lazy. But not just because they don't want to do the work, but they are unwilling to wait for the work they've put in to come to fruition.
I mean, between starting a project or starting an idea or business to the time where you start to see certain gains, I mean, that period in between, I mean, you know about it. You know how
it's crazy.
It's terrible. I mean, you ask yourself every single day, should I continue doing this? Is it even worth it in the end? I mean, it's very frustrating. And I personally do understand people who want to give up. And interestingly, one of the phrases we use, here at Scopter is that if you want to give up, give up. Yeah. Because there are so many people who have been sold a dream. They are trying. It's not, they work. Yeah. But there's still the push. There's still the push. I mean, I'm not saying that, if you are pushing, it's not working, quit. But there are times where quitting could mean look into what you are doing, what is not working. If there's a need to recalibrate, you do that. Okay. For instance, if you are on a particular trajectory, right? Maybe it might not necessarily even be your strength, but you think that that's where you're going to see the brighter future or the vision lies. I mean, sometimes you have to do a self-assessment, right? It's not always all the case that what you are doing is what you're supposed to be on. And that moment of truth, that moment of reflection, it's not an easy conversation. I would say it's not, where you come to realization that you need to, change your course, or you need to divert into a new thing. I don't know if you can relate to what I'm saying. Has there any point in your life that you felt you had to, change your course?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's all like the storytelling we are talking about. A hero starts his journey, meets an obstacle, overcomes the obstacle, and gets to the climax of the story where they found the solution, right? And look at a movie like Game of Thrones, right?
Game of Thrones.
It's a very similar structure, except the complexities that you find in the challenges are a lot. Somebody will have to change paths to go here for a couple of years, to come back to this path for a couple of years. So I think most people should look at their life as a story and their journey as a story, and find certain milestones disguised as challenges, and figure out which can I use to get to where I want to go. So the beginning of the story is where you're starting your business. Yeah, you're facing certain challenges, right? And sometimes you might think, maybe this is not the best part. I might take this part. For instance, being trained as a graphic designer, right from second year, when I got my first camera, I think first day when I got my first camera, I quickly realized that I was making more money as a photographer than I was as a graphic designer, right? So I was like, okay, let me focus a little bit more on the photography because this was going to bring me more money. And then I stumbled into videography, like making films and short stories and stuff. And I realized that, wait, that is 5 times the money as photography. So within that period, I had sort of shifted twice. Then it got to now where I make more money in design than I do in all the video production. And it's quite interesting because when I say I make more money, physically, if I look at like my bank accounts and look how much money I'm making from like creating videos, it's way more than it is for design. But when I look at the money I keep, it's way more in design than it is in the video. Because you invest all the money back into equipment, but with the design, it's not like that. So the story started with design, went into photography, creating videos, and I was back to design. You see, so I had to move from one point to another whilst assessing the return of investment, especially not looking at how much I'm making, but how much I'm keeping. And it just sort of made sense.
I mean, there are always trade-offs to make.
Yeah.
I mean, but at any point, you should just, get a grab of your business, right?
Yeah,
you need to know where the money is coming in from, where it is going to, how it's even coming in. And most of the times, creatives or freelancers or people in this space, they don't usually have a long-term plan. Think about where the next gig is going to come from.
Yeah.
They are not process-oriented. And I mean, you could get some people who feel working with a team or with an agency is, you wouldn't be making much. Rather, they would prefer to be on their, go solo and all that. What's your personal take about freelance and going solo or working with a team, like an agency, a consultancy? What's your take on that?
I believe that if you're able to absorb a lot of stress, you make the most money. Right.
If you're able to absorb a lot of stress. Okay.
If you're able to stomach a lot of stress, that's where most of the money is. So for people who want to go solo, most of the time, some of the underlying reasons could be that they are tired of the team idea. And it doesn't help that making or running a team in Ghana is so hard. Like, it's a very difficult thing to do, trying to have people. It's still similar to like storytelling in the structure of a simple story where the hero sort of meets challenges and has an antagonist who wants to kill them. Like, it's as if when you're trying to build a team, you're sort of create your own ragtag team of individuals who want to do their own thing. For instance, you could hire somebody in Ghana and they're not really trying to join you. They're just trying to come and learn what you can teach them. So essentially it's like you're paying them to teach them, right? Which doesn't make sense. And when they've learned enough, they move along. So it has created a lot of roadblocks when it comes to people trying to build their own businesses. So a lot of people rather go solo because it's cheaper to go solo and you make a lot of money going solo as compared to building a team where the money is not just enjoyed by the team members, but you're also not even spending, just like getting the money as much, right? So it would really depend on which stage in the career you are. Starting on, like I think somewhere after school, I was solo for a while until I realized that the point the money is at, you have to go as a team, right? Like if you're selling a 200K invoice or a 300,000K, like a 300K invoice to a client, they don't want to see just one person. They want to see a whole team. Because there's more at stake, there's more responsibility. So if you want to get to that point, then you come to begin to understand that appearing as a team, it's more credible. And appearing as a team actually helps you more. And even aside this whole thing from the client perspective, from the individual perspective, I think nothing can build you more than building a team. In fact, it's in your own favor to actually build a team in terms of the long-term effect of actually being able to manage a team than anything else. If it's worth more than any money you ever make, because those who make a lot of money, they work as a team. Individuals who make a lot of money that work as like solopreneurs or like freelancers, they'll go far. Or not so far, especially here in Ghana. If you happen to be in an industry where you can be employed as a solopreneur across different industries, then that's fine. But even that, it gets to a point, the money is not enough anymore. You see, and you want to go higher. You end up being absorbed into a team one way or the other. Or just that you won't be the one to control the team, you're employed under the team. So I think depending on what you're trying to achieve and the path you're trying to go on, you would sort of look at where you are now and see whether it's best to start with a team or it's best to go solo. personally, I knew that one of my ultimate goals was be to create an exclusive university for arts and design. And that means
That's what you're building towards.
yes, that's where I'm building towards, to have a university.
I mean, that's big.
Yes. And it's important that I understand how to speak to people. I understand how to inspire people. I understand how to sort of build a community, because it's not something you can do alone, right? Now, based on that, it's not gonna take a short time to actually achieve that, right? And the more I isolate myself, the more difficult it will be to achieve that goal. So I started putting myself in the situation where I meet a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, so that at least I'm building the muscle to accommodate such a dream. If it was all about the money for me, then I'd probably look for somebody who can really pay me a lot. Because being employed is fun. You're being paid to learn. You're being paid to experiment. And on top of that, you still make profits. You just do nothing, right? So that's how I think of it. Just know what you want to do, where you want to go, and figure out what stage you're in life. If it's the stage where you have to work for somebody to make money very quickly, or you're in a stage where you have to build your own thing so that it can work for you in the next few years.
Totally agree. I guess the point I'm at of this journey that it becomes much more than the money.
Of course.
I guess the point becomes about legacy. It becomes about impact. It's really something that, I mean, you mentioned earlier that sometimes giving back to the society feels like you are at a self-actualized state. And, do you think we are doing enough as creatives, I mean, in this part of the world, to give back to the communities, to give back to the people who patronize our services, our products, right? Because what we are doing essentially is building for people. Right?
Yes.
And I personally have a connection to the fact that we need to be much more than what we stand for. For instance, every business, the bottom line is to make money, right? But beyond the money making, how do we become a force for good? I don't know if you've pondered over those moments.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'll say that I've gotten to that self-actualization bit a little bit too early. And I noticed a lot of other people like yourself, you guys are also there. And I think we're doing, a lots of creators in Ghana are doing a lot, especially knowing that not a lot of creators are making money. So there's this show I'm creating right now called Coloring Outside the Lines. Yeah, it's going to be like a small TV show, and I'm interviewing about 12 creators in Ghana who are making about 2 million Ghana cedis a year, right? And my main idea is to show that it's the sustainability behind a creative career is economically enormous, right? And not a lot of people even know that there are creators in Ghana who are making about 2 million Ghana cedis a year with their creativity. And that's crazy for me. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because most of these people started giving back even before they got to the self-actualized stage. And I see a lot of young creators also doing that, teaching online, sharing their experiences. These things, you usually see them in people who are a little bit later in their career. But somebody who start their thing like the first 2 years and they're already giving back so much. And they should not give back so much at that early age. Because that early age, you're focusing on yourself. You're building for yourself. So I get extremely happy when I see other creators who are much smaller, but actually giving value very quickly to a lot of people. And I think that if that's how we're starting, then like I have so much faith in the creative industry in Ghana, because a lot of people are going to learn. The skill development ratio is going to be really high. And there's going to be a lot of acceptance and fulfillment in the creative field, because now not only are you getting satisfied by getting paid, you're also getting satisfaction from helping other people get to where they want to go. They can also buy their first car, start their own small companies. And I think, like you said, beyond the money, the fulfillment parts is, I already see it's in a lot of small creators, and they're really doing great. So it gets me very excited.
I mean, one of such moments was 2 years ago, we started an impact project here called Design the Next.
Right.
And our focus was to move the next change makers via design. Our first project was we had to, teaching and learning materials, right, within public schools. They would draw illustrations on cardboards. They would use paper to make, any more like learning aids for them. And the materials in which these things were being designed on, they were not durable, not in the best condition. So what we felt to do was, first of all, how do we create an environment or a space for these young people to be connecting with the teaching and learning aids that they use, right? And as part of what we did on that day, we had the young people. It was a public school, and we focused on the lower primary, so classes 1 to 3. And in one activity, they were supposed to draw their future self or the career that they see themselves doing. And it will fascinate you what they were drawing.
Can you share?
And no disrespect to any profession, right? But what they put out there was a reflection of their reality.
Yes.
One wanted to be a mate, like a bus conductor.
Okay.
One wanted to be a trotro driver. You could understand where they were coming from, right? And bringing this back to your point that skills development should be big for all of us. From that moment, the realization came that, there is much work to be done.
A lot.
There's really much work to be done. And if we really want to build a country, really want to build a continent, if we want to drive young people along, we should look at, some of these days, how we could go back to various, it's not always the case that we're living from places of privilege. Sometimes it's just the intention behind it.
Right.
Where you start something, you see it through, you focus on the impact side of things where, like I said, I wouldn't say we have reached, as a team at Sculptor yet, but we are at a point where money isn't the first thing we consider. And by that, it doesn't mean that, we take peanuts for what we do. Definitely not. But then we've built a model that whatever we make, something goes back to the community.
I think that's brilliant.
Because in the end, we are all we have got. Right? There's no savior anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? We are the ones going to build the country we want. We are the ones going to build the lifestyles we want.
Yeah.
We are the ones going to build, anything good that we think we should and can do, we are the ones going to do it. So, it's good that, we align on that trajectory where we are looking at how we can make impact even through stories and all that. And I think I've seen your works. You're doing amazingly well. I wouldn't lie about that. And like I said, many young people, have people to look up to.
Yeah.
Because maybe, I wouldn't say in our time because I'm still young, so I wouldn't use it in our time. I was born after 95, so still, the fact that you can see people or have people that you can connect to, I think it's really big. Having a mentor, having a role model.
Crazy.
It's something that we usually underestimate, but it's really valuable.
Extremely.
Do you have people you mentor?
I do not have people I mentor. I have people I coach once here and there.
What's the difference between mentorship and coaching?
I would say coaching is more hands-on, right? Like you're very close to the person and you're actually directing the person. Like you can sometimes even in very close proximity. It's rampant, it's quick. It happens almost continuously. Mentorship is a little bit more distant and it's more high level, it's more strategic. It sort of teaches you certain soft skills that your coach might not teach you. So like I look at my mentor like this and the kind of things that I learned from her, and I look at some people who have been in the position of coaches in my life. So what's a good example is maybe a coach could be somebody who is helping me with the technical side of my work, right? Trying to help me with HR services, trying to help me with more like getting money to buy certain things and all of that, like very technical. And a mentor would be somebody who's sort of really guiding me on a strategic path. Josh, do you know that, like for instance, my mentor linked me to somebody who was just promoted as the current country manager for DHL, and she's like, go speak to him.
Okay.
You get it? So my mentor is sort of directing me in certain strategic partnerships, making me become friends with certain people. She'll make me do certain things like, it's getting to Christmas. What are you giving your top clients? And then I end up creating the package or sending gifts to my top clients and stuff like that. So I think mentorship is extremely important, especially here in Ghana. Well, I have a funny theory, right? That business here is very informal. Business in Ghana is extremely informal. And most people would start to make things very formal by like emails and things. But Charlie, the truth is, like my mentor would have me have dinner with certain people that I'm about to get into business with. Oh, let's go out for lunch. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Extremely out of the scope of the work we are actually about to do. But then she's really hard on, she's really big on relationships and how in Ghana, relationships are the golden goose to making a lot of money. You see, that's something your coach wouldn't teach you. Your coach would teach you what to do with the actual thing. And your mentor will probably let you understand that one is possible, that you can live in Ghana and make over $50 million. Your mentor would make you feel like it's possible that even if you lose your best staff, you get someone else to replace the person. So don't be too hard on yourself. And your mentor will let you know that, like for instance, one thing that I really admire about my mentor is, I'm like, you have so much money. But 1 a.m., this lady's up, like working. I'm like, if right now, I think my goal is to make $50 million and I get to that point, I would think that I'll just chill. But now I actually know somebody in that position and they're putting in the work. So then that gets that whole craziness out of my mind that I'm not going to hit any big money and then think that life is going to be better. Besides, the bigger the responsibility, the more stressful it becomes. And I see how much stress she sort of goes to do whatever she wants to do. And I'm like, that's really good knowledge and information that I might not have gotten anywhere else. And I've gotten there and I think that maybe I've hit. Not knowing that that comes with a much bigger price tag on responsibility and a much bigger price tag on actually being ethical, because now you come into the radar of certain people who do not like you. And when you're not making a lot of money, nobody really cares. Right? But when you start making a lot of money, that's when people really start to act very funny around you. So these are things that are sort of, it's like I've lived in the future through her eyes and through her experience. And I know what to respect as my company grows, as my career develops. I know the type of things to move away from. I know there are some decisions that are purely based on relationships and maintaining partnerships. There are some decisions that are purely based on running the company. And again, all of that is like a story. Being able to sort of see all the different paths that you can take to the point you want to go. And keeping it in mind that you can't do it alone and you have to sort of rely on other people and invite other people into your story whilst you also help them on theirs so that you can all get to the final destination.
I mean, he said it all. I mean, we would have to let all these nuggets simmer down, note it down, and actually practice it, over time. There's this one interesting question that's the final question. If you had to go back in time to meet one historical figure, who would you wish you would have been?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
And why?
Historical figure, who would I have met? Yeah. Funny enough, this will take us away. It's going to be, I think it will be Friedrich Nietzsche. No, or Marcus Aurelius. You know something, I think it will be Marcus Aurelius.
Too philosophical.
Yes, I think it will be Marcus Aurelius. You know, I really believe in Stoicism. Right? I really love the idea of Stoicism, especially the idea that fate is a real thing. And you being able to live life, not just seeing things that happen to you, but reacting to it in a very equal way or in a balanced way. If something good happens to you or something bad happens to you, the reaction is the same. And for me, that's great because I used to have a lot of anxiety and I used to sort of hold myself to very unrealistic standards because I was comparing myself to people who have a much different reality than I do. Like, they're not only born in better places, certain decisions have been made for them to have a much easier life. So it would be very stupid of me to live in Ghana as a 30-year-old and compare myself to a 25-year-old American who's like making bank for decisions that neither of us made, right? So I think I would want to speak to Marcus Aurelius and I would say, Charlie, you really thought deep, because I mean, for a Roman emperor, like he's one of the very few people that people sort of think of as one of the greatest kings, some of the greatest emperors or kings who ever lived because of their concept of life. And I think if you live life without expectations, you're able to sort of become happier, you get more fulfilled. And especially now that there's so much social pressure, you become kind of immune because when you do something, you're not really expecting any return. And it's a better place to start. The moment you start having expectations, that's when it's very easy to be sad or disappointed. Because when you don't meet that expectation, then, you feel somewhere.
I mean, Josh, I think we need an episode to talk about philosophy.
Charlie, philosophy.
Because, I mean, the way people think, I mean, the way we are shaped by thoughts. And, I mean, as a man thinketh, so is he. Right, so, I mean, the whole ideology is
not Shakespeare.
To be honest, I don't know what exactly said that, but I mean, there's a book like As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah. Shakespeare said, I think, therefore I am.
That's Cogito Ergo Sum. It's not Shakespeare. That should be Rene Descartes.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, we could do our checks. I mean, we are not philosophy lecturers. Exactly. Yeah. But I think.
Yeah, but I believe that's
beyond
strong. That's strong.
I mean, good conversations. It's really nice having you on this, and I've loved the conversation from your conviction to run your own business right from school, taking internships, from deciding to give back to community in so many ways as possible, to as well as focus on skills development, the necessity to see life as a story where you see like in the life of every hero or every in the life of every hero there are obstacles that you'd have to meet, surmount them, build a winning story. And your bigger vision is to build a whole university or a learning institution for creatives and design. I think it's solid stuff. Really wish you all the best. And could you tell our subscribers to and those yet to subscribe to follow the Brand Up podcast, to share and also engage with us?
Well, I think you guys should, if you're not following, you should follow after this video. I know there's a lot of people you guys have planned to come onto this platform, and I think in Ghana, you really need to understand and hear other people's side of the story, and eventually it will make sense to you. Come back, watch these videos every single time if you're feeling down. I'm sure you find some inspiration here and there, some nuggets here and there, and most importantly, reach out to the people who are invited here and try and connect with them. I think will make a big difference in your life and your career. So